What if the speed of light was 30 miles an hour? What if Earth had 2 suns? Which cereal mascot would win in a fight? What if everyone lived underground? What if it rained
money
food?
grew on
What
trees?
if pigs could fly?
I don't know if that would actually happen.
It's much easier to store a unicycle than to store a horse.
Hello everybody and welcome to Absurd Hypotheticals, the show where we overthink dumb questions so you don't have to. I'm your host Marcus Lehner, and I'm joined here today by Chris Yee and Ben Storms. Say hi guys.
Hey, I'm Chris.
Hey, I'm Ben.
This doesn't really work as a segue in my head because we just passed May the 4th, the Star Wars Day, but this is the past and not when this episode is released, so that's really kind of irrelevant by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah, this comes out in June.
Yeah.
June the 4th be with you.
June the 6th be with you.
No, I don't think we're our hiatus got extended, didn't it? Isn't it like June 15th or 20th?
It's June 6th.
What day is it?
Return of the Jedi. I'm trying. I don't know, guys.
Star Wars.
But if you haven't guessed already, and speaking of Jedi, we're doing a Star Wars question today. What if you had Jedi powers? What do we mean by Jedi powers?
The Force.
Yeah, the Force from the Star Wars movies. So this mystical, midichlorians fueled ability to, like, you can move things with your mind, you can choke people out, you can maybe shoot lightning if you're really mad, and you can sense some stuff, and you can jump real good. I'm trying to think of any other ones I missed. There's a lot of cool ones.
There's a bunch.
If you're listening to this, nerdy podcast and haven't watched Star Wars, which feels like a pretty narrow slice of an already pretty narrow slice, well, if we're talking about the power, we'll probably talk about how it works kind of in the answer, so you'll catch up. It'll be fine.
Also, if you clicked on a video called "What if you had Jedi powers" and you don't know what the Force is, then I don't know.
That is also a very confusing decision you've made.
Well, good job making the person who was just open to clown with whatever we were doing feel really, really self-conscious about not knowing Star Wars, which people who don't see Star Wars already have to deal with enough.
Did you just say open to clown?
Yeah, open to clown.
I'm open to clown.
It's like down to clown, but
I'm
more,
open to
more
clowning.
Encouraging.
I'm predisposed to clown foolery.
Oh boy. Once again, the second I hit the record button, my brain immediately becomes a mess.
Yep, and we love it.
Chris, save me from myself. Why don't you get started?
So I'm going to start with the thing that I first thought about when I thought of Force powers and Jedi powers was deflecting things. So like the idea of deflecting like a blaster bolt specifically, I don't know, the idea is cool to me. There are some examples, I think like in the new Disney Plus like animated thing, a few people like stop blaster bolts with the Force, and I thought that was really cool. So I was like, I'm going to look into that. And a few examples of people just deflecting things is in Empire Strikes Back, Han Solo encounters Vader on Cloud City, and he shoots Vader, but Vader holds out his hand and blocks the shot. And then he uses the Force to like pull the gun away. In Attack of the Clones, Yoda fights Count Dooku, and Dooku shoots lightning at him, and he deflects the lightning. And then more recently, in Rise of Skywalker, Rey deflects blaster bolts in the Battle of Exegol. So, what is a blaster bolt in the first place? Because like, what is this thing that they're deflecting? It looks like a laser, but it's not actually a laser. So, in the lore of Star Wars, blaster bolt, the blasters, they shoot pulses of explosive gas, and then the color of the bolt is actually dependent on the type of gas that they use in the blaster.
So they're really just big fart guns.
Yep.
Yeah, technically fart guns. So they're not deflecting lasers, they're actually deflecting like pulses of energy. And the interesting thing is in Attack of the Clones, with that Yoda example, he deflects the lightning, and then Dooku actually like tries to shoot him again with the lightning. And the second time Yoda doesn't deflect it, he actually absorbs the lightning, the energy from the lightning. Which brings me to the next thing, which is like sort of a natural progression of deflecting these things. It's a thing called Tutaminis, which is like a term in Star Wars lore, which it's like a technique that the Jedi use. And Tutaminis encompasses everything that like involves dissipating energy or even absorbing energy. So Jedi could sometimes use the energy that they absorb to like heal or like divert the energy into like other force powers, which is kind of cool, I thought. And some of the more powerful Jedi could like absorb blaster bolts. Now, Tutaminis was...
Sorry, I'm gonna laugh. That name is so funny.
We can't just let that go by.
Yeah, it's not a great name.
Well, it's got to be. The name makes sense because it's minimizing the fart blast, so it's a toot, a minus.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah,
it minuses the toots.
Yes, exactly. Tutaminis is one of the first techniques that they actually teach in the Jedi Academy, and they teach it so early because it actually takes a really long time to develop the skill and master it. Sometimes it takes like an entire lifetime to master. And Yoda absorbing the lightning is actually the only demonstration of Tutaminis in the movies. It is demonstrated a few more times outside of the movies, so I think this example's from the comics. I'm not entirely sure, but a Jedi named Neja Halcyon, I think that's how you say it. He was a Republic general during the Clone Wars, and he actually didn't possess any telekinetic abilities from the Force. Like, he couldn't move things with his mind or with midichlorians. So to make up for this, he actually developed his skills into Tutaminis instead and became like really good at it. So he was actually able to use the energy that he absorbed in order to give himself temporarily telekinesis, which is cool. And he was actually so good at the technique that he was able to catch lightsaber blades with his bare hands, which is badass.
Ooh.
That's from the comics. There's also a game called Star Wars The Old Republic, where a Jedi named Satel Shan, she fights during the Battle of Alderaan in the Galactic War. She's fighting Darth Malgus, and she also blocks a lightsaber blade with her hand. So really strong Force users can block and absorb lightsaber blades, which, again, very cool. So similar to like how I looked at blaster bolts, I wanted to see like what is a lightsaber blade as well. And a lightsaber blade is actually plasma. Lightning is also plasma, so the lightning that Count Dooku was shooting at Yoda is plasma. So that means that they're able to deflect, block, and absorb plasma. And what else is also plasma is fire. So I want to become, with my Force powers and the ability to absorb plasma, I want to become a firefighter and fight fires by absorbing them. And Jedi have actually shown like a higher tolerance to heat as well. So like in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan and Anakin are fighting on Mustafar, which is like a giant lava planet, and they're just fighting right next to lava and they're fine.
Could you argue one of them exhibited more resistance to heat than the other one?
Yes, that is true.
Given that one of them kind of more fell in a bit.
Got a little crispy. Yeah.
I mean, he had not mastered Tutaminis, apparently. So, actually, I think there is an example. I don't remember where it's from, but I think there's an example of a Jedi absorbing energy from a volcano specifically. So, if Anakin was able to do that, he'd be fine.
The Star Wars Extended Universe is a beautiful place.
Yeah. Jedi get very powerful in the Extended Universe. And because I'm becoming a firefighter, I tried to look into like common causes of fatalities in firefighters to see if like being a Jedi would actually help. And I found numbers from 2019. Actually, I found numbers from 2020 as well, but they're kind of skewed by COVID. So I went with the 2019. And according to that, 54% of firefighters die from exhaustion or overexertion. That was like the number one cause. And the number two cause was fire and explosions. That was only at 13%. So there's a really big gap between the two. We can absorb fire. I mean, it'll help with that 13%, but 54% is still a lot for exhaustion and stuff. But the thing is, if we don't have to wear all that like protective gear and stuff to protect from the fires, we're just going to absorb it anyway. We're not going to be as exhausted. We'll be fine. And like firefighters, they also carry axes and stuff for like rescues. And axes are pretty heavy, but we don't need that anymore because we have our lightsaber. A lightsaber is actually way more effective as a tool for firefighters because you can basically just cut through anything. and it's a lot lighter. So,
But can you possibly be and have a good relationship with the other firefighters at the firehouse when you're the one who does not have to get ready when you go out on call? Where like the thing rings and like everyone's rushing to put on all this heavy, super uncomfortable like protective gear, and like you're just sitting there like, come on, guys.
you're just sitting there.
Oh, boo-hoo, my axe is so heavy.
I don't know. You could help them somehow with your force
Telekinesis?
powers. Telekinesis.
That feels like one to help carry things that are heavy.
Yeah.
There you go. Yay.
Yay.
You're usually trying to help someone get their suit on by like pushing it at them. Like, here you go.
Yeah. So you'll have your lightsaber and you'll be good to go. And then there are just a few other advantages you have just from generally being a Jedi. You'll be able to like move debris with your telekinesis. So like if people are trapped under debris, you can easily lift it and let them out instead of having to like lift it with your hands like a normal person. You can also jump super high. So I looked up how high Jedi can jump, and it's up to around 23 feet. So you'll still need the ladder on top of the fire truck because that goes way, way higher than 23 feet. But it will still help. You'll be able to jump high. That'll be helpful. And then you'll be able to save kittens from trees with your telekinesis. Obviously, it makes things a lot easier because you don't need to get on a ladder. And then if you're like trying to talk someone off a ledge, like firefighters always show up to that, you have your Jedi mind trick. So you just like wave your hand in front of their face and they'll be like, okay, I won't jump, and you're good. So yeah, I will be a firefighter Jedi.
You've managed to take a generic hero and turn him into a generic hero. Good job.
Yeah.
Nice. We did
job
it.
complete.
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Ben, what do you do?
So you mentioned briefly the Jedi mind trick there, and I came into this question basically deciding that I was going to figure out a way to make the Jedi mind trick actually useful. So the Jedi mind trick, to go into a little more detail than Chris did, it is basically, yes, you technically don't have to wave your hand. There are examples where they don't, but generally you wave your hand at someone and say something for them to do or think or whatever, and they do it. It works on the weak-minded is kind of the way it works. There are certain species and just stronger-willed people who aren't susceptible to it, but that's kind of the way things go. In normal, everyday life, it doesn't actually seem that useful. I was thinking about just like, things I do day to day, and very rarely are there times where just convincing one person to do something is actually going to get you that much.
Unless you want to scam people.
But even scamming people...
Apply for a loan, get out of a speeding ticket,
but
purchase
like, okay.
anything.
Well, no, let's talk about applying for a loan or purchasing something. So, say you go to Walmart and you go to, you get, a TV or whatever, and you take it to the register, and you wave your hand and go, I just paid for this. And the cashier goes, okay, you just paid for this, and you walk out. You are on camera like 8 times walking out with a TV, and there's no record of you having bought it.
See, you don't have to steal 8 TVs in a row.
Well, no. I'm not saying you did 8. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, like, you walk out with your TV, and, like, at the end of the day, the manager's going to say, hey, why did that person walk out without paying for a TV? And the cashier's going to go, I don't know. And they're going to know who you are.
Or, you don't have to steal the whole thing. You just be like, hey,
wait, you don't have to steal the whole TV? Wait, you have to steal part of the TV?
You just get the best, you'll get the best damaging deal.
Okay, but
you
once
want to
again,
give that to me at factory costs.
Once again, you're sort of proving my point here that the actual use of this is pretty low. It doesn't go as far as you might think it would. So, after I thought through things a lot, I needed something that didn't actually matter that much in the grand scheme of things, but that still would be able to have some sort of actual impact on. And because I am me, I wound up, of course, at sports.
Oh, I was thinking you were going to say food.
Oh, no, that would actually also be another possibility.
He's got 2 themes. Ben's got 2 things he does.
Yeah, I do food and I do sports. That's basically 90% of who I am. The other 10%, of course, is this podcast, which encompasses my love of food and sports. So, you can take of that what you will.
And don't forget your 70% water.
I am. So things get really complicated. Basically, I decided to figure out, because in sports, there is always a referee, right? And that referee is someone who you could convince to do things. I'm not going to say easily, but in enough of a high-impact moment that you could sway the outcome of your games and lead to more success for the team that you're playing for. I wound up going with basketball just because, I don't know, the NBA playoffs are happening right now, and I was thinking about basketball. The question you're probably asking right now is, hold on, you have Jedi powers, including, like, telekinesis. Why am I not just using telekinesis to mess with the outcome of basketball games? And the answer there is that there are currently, as far as I can tell, no rules against telekinesis in the NBA rulebook. However,
That's
I don't know.
Oversight.
I didn't read all of it. Not gonna lie, I just did some Control F, magic, but
Telekinesis.
couldn't find anything. I'm pretty sure if it was discovered that you're using telekinesis, they'd probably put something in place. And you might be asking also, how likely is it that if you just very carefully tweet a couple shots with your mind, that people would notice it? You don't know how insane NBA Twitter fans are. They would 100% notice it. As an example, one that happened this season. So after every game, every NBA, every team, social media team, tweets out an image and then the final score of the game that their team just played, right? Someone near the end of the season had a very strong feeling that for whatever reason, whether contractual or whatever, they realized that the Lakers had never included a picture of LeBron James in a loss tweet, despite the Lakers losing quite a few games. At which point, NBA Twitter went back through all of the post-game tweets from the Lakers and confirmed that yes, in all 41 of their losses at the time, not a single one included LeBron James. And in their 30-ish wins at the time, 10 of them had LeBron James.
So they might notice a little bit.
They would notice a little bit. NBA Twitter is insane. I'm part of it and I love it, but we are insane. So I think doing anything super obviously Jedi is out. But that doesn't mean you can still do some things to, make yourself a normal, although Jedi-powered person, be able to hang in the NBA. So there are some relevant other force powers. There's force jumping. Seems useful.
Yeah? In basketball?
Yeah,
sure?
it's kind of, done a little bit. There was a Wired article where they went through and, used physics to analyze all of the Jedi jumps in Star Wars. And the average jump was apparently a bit over 15 feet, which is more than we need for our purposes. So you can jump with an NBA player and be fine.
I found 23 feet. I don't know where my number came from.
So they may have been using a specific
I feel like I've
one.
seen bigger jumps in Star Wars besides both those numbers anyway. So
yes, there are definitely bigger ones. This was the average across all, I think, 9 movies. So I don't know. You might have the numbers you saw, Chris, may have been from before a movie came out. Yeah. So in addition, there's force speed, which just makes you move faster. It's pretty much what it says on the 10. I couldn't find any exact numbers aside from there's, of course, a Star Wars pen and paper role-playing game. And in that, there are different levels of the power named Night Speed and Master Speed, which allow the user to move up to 20 times and 30 times faster than normal, respectively. So once again, don't do all of that because they'll think you're a demon. But, you can hang with NBA players once again.
I mean, is it cheating just being really fast? That's not cheating.
I mean, it's not cheating, but I think you might draw some questions if you go literally 30 times faster than a normal person.
They might post rules. You are not allowed to run. There's a speed limit in basketball.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I also look for some kind of strength just because it's useful. And the only thing I could find was there was only 2 times it was shown used, and both of them were really sketchy expanded universe stuff. So I'm going to say it doesn't really exist, but you can kind of fake it with telekinesis, I guess, and, sort of make yourself just push on them with your mind and your body, and it kind of works out. So I'm going to say that between those 3 powers, jumping speed and telekinesis to emulate strength, you can physically, appear to be an NBA player, basically, to the point where you can get onto a roster. The question is then, next, are NBA referees weak-willed, and can you use a Jedi mind trick on them? And there's actually, not exactly that, but there's actually kind of research to this direction. Because for a long time, there's always been this assumption that referees are favorites to home teams whenever a game is happening. That, if it's a game that has fouls in it, there'll be more fouls called on the opposing team. Decisions will just kind of just go in the direction of the home team. And I decided that was kind of a good proxy for, can you sway a referee with a Jedi mind trick? Because if they can be swayed by just like being at a place and having a crowd yelling, they can probably be swayed by a Jedi as well. It's reasonable, right? Like that's fair. And there's actually a lot of research about this, probably because of sports betting, if I were to guess. And one of the main ones I saw, they basically they took soccer referees and had them look at the same fouls with crowd noise and without crowd noise. Like not the same people, but like a sample of referees. Some of them saw it with crowd noise, some without. And the ones who saw them with the background crowd noise actually called 15.5% fewer fouls against the home team as compared to those who watched without any crowd noise, which is huge. That's a huge amount, honestly, in terms of like, swaying the impact of a game. And there's been many other studies as well that have tried to, make sure to filter out like age referees and things like that, and like the actual location. And it just definitely seems like having that crowd noise around definitely does push a ref to make calls in favor of the home team to a like statistically significant level. So we're saying that yes, you can in breaks and play go over and get a ref to call a stupid foul on the star player of the other team or whatever, so you can just nudge the scales in your favor. How much is that actually going to be able to impact the success of a team over a season? And the only way I can look at that, I basically went through the records for all of the teams in the NBA last year and looked at how many games they played in where the final score was a difference of 3 points or less. Because I figured that's, kind of like a one possession game. That's where just a couple of like key fouls you get called could turn that from a loss into a win for your team. Overall, about 13.5% of all games in the NBA last year were within 3 points. And then on a team-by-team level, it tracks with that. It was average about 11, and it was anywhere from, I think the lowest was 6 for a team, highest was 18. If you were to take the most unlucky team in these situations, you would assume that overall, in a one-score game like that, it would be roughly a 50% chance your team would win. The least lucky team in that stance last year was the Indianapolis Pacers, who played in 17 close games and lost 14 of them somehow.
That's not good.
That's really bad. They weren't a good team, but they weren't as bad of a team as they looked because of that. If they had won all of those games instead, they would have gone from winning about 30% of their games to winning just under half of their games, and would have gone from being far out of the playoffs to being easily in the playoffs.
If they were a forced power, they'd be forced choke, am I right?
Wow. I was going to make a forced choke joke.
Damn it, Marcus.
Cross it out.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my stinger at the end. But anyway, long story short, because I feel like I've actually talked way more about this than I expected to.
If you had spent this much time trying to figure out how to get money out of a cashier, you may have stuck with that.
Yeah, but at the same time, my overall plan is apparently to just be a basketball player who probably isn't actually still all that good because he won't be a very good shooter, but you'll be a really good defender, and your teams will just win more than they should when you're on the team, so people will keep giving you money to play basketball. And that seems pretty good to me, personally.
And now you have no choke joke.
Yeah, I don't have my choke joke. Yeah, I was gonna make some joke about literally choking the playoffs, but that's probably also a bad idea in terms of NBA Twitter loving and then hating and fearing you.
The question is, when you get your own Space Jam movie, is it going to be a Star Wars movie or a basketball cash-in movie?
Why not both? Anyway, Marcus, what did you do?
So yeah, the question was Jedi powers, but I always thought some of the coolest powers were not technically Jedi powers, the evil ones, the bad guys use, the Sith powers. So basically, the Force has some stuff that you can do if you're a good guy, and then if you're mad and angry, you get a whole bunch of cool new things you can do, like shoot lightning out of your fingertips. And so I was kind of looking into those. I started at Force Lightning, and then realized I was doing like power calculations for the 85th time, and I'm like, you know what? That already just by default like can be assumed from this podcast. I don't need to actually go through all that work. You can power some number of things that will eventually do math for somewhere along the line.
Yeah, we've already looked at lightning specifically too, I think.
Yeah, no, I was like, it's a little bit too on brand. Let me look around a little bit for my own sanity. And so kind of the other one I was looking at was, the Force. I actually did Force choke. Darth Vader's iconic ability in the series. So as the name implies, he's able to use the power of the Force to choke somebody. He sticks out his hand, and then the Imperial general who has displeased him is suddenly struggling for breath. So to see kind of how helpful this is, first I was saying, okay, so how much force is he, like physical force, like the physics term force, not space force, is he exerting?
Lowercase, not capital.
Yeah, how much lowercase force is he exerting? Which Google upsettingly had like some good numbers for. It takes 33 pounds of pressure to close off someone's windpipe.
Nice.
You can actually knock someone unconscious with way less pressure around the neck if you are on their important arteries in the neck that go up to the brain. Just 4.5 pounds of pressure at the neck is enough to knock someone unconscious. For a point of reference, like 4.5 pounds, 5 pounds is what you need to like crack an egg. Like just, poke your finger through an egg and open it. Like that's 5 pounds. That's not a lot of force, and you can knock someone unconscious with that. The average grip strength for a man is 75 pounds, 44 for women, but a guy, Darth Vader in this example, could theoretically, on average, squeeze for 75 pounds. And I'm going to take the hand grip strength as the Force choke grip strength. Obviously, there are many examples of Darth Vader using a lot more force.
Like crushing ships.
Yeah, like, pushing very large objects or crushing ships or, decimating some nonsense or another. Like some of the opening scenes in the Force Unleashed series, I think it is, where they reestablished Darth Vader's big bad. So there's a bunch of opening scenes of him just like going to town on people in overly dramatic Force-powered ways. But while cool and intimidating, Force choking someone is not that super practical. You could, for instance, just as an example, take 2 steps forward and accomplish the same thing with your actual hand. Or if you really can't be bothered with that, you just get one of those like little toy extendo arm things that like, like little robot arms with the clips. You could use one of those. But because I couldn't think of a good use for it, of course, it sat in my brain until I found one. So again, while generally it's not useful unless you're like instilling fear in your cohort of Imperial generals, there is one interesting part about the Force choking. Usually Vader's choking out someone in that room, but there are a few scenes between movies and a little bit of extended universe stuff where he chokes someone that he's out on a video call with. So, he's gets the phone chat, sees the guy on the 3D projector, and he's like, nope, you've displeased me, and then chokes him out. Someone who is, according to the Star Wars Theories YouTube channel, who did this wonderful, wonderful work for me, someone who is estimated to be 31,000 light years away based on what planet they're supposed to be on, and, a general maps of the Star Wars universe, as clean as those are. So now we have the ability to apply this small amount of force, admittedly, but at an incredibly long distance. So, funnily, I ended up finding the same answer of what I wanted to do with it that I had the last time we tackled a Star Wars question, which, my word, was episode 35, way, way back when we did what you do if you had a lightsaber.
I wasn't there, so this is new for me.
Yeah, it was like one of the... Is it the only episode you've missed, Chris? Second episode? One of 2?
I missed a few, I think.
Yeah, because there was... I think it was the only one where it was only 2 of us there.
Oh, right, yeah. If you don't like Chris and you love Star Wars, episode 35 is where it's at. But yeah, I looked at space probes because space probes are kind of unique in that you don't need to give them much to get them going, but it's really hard to add to, to power them because you can't they're obviously just designed to go as far away from you as possible. So one thing I was actually missing the last time we covered this was I was looking at the power requirements for space probes. So the way space probes are powered is that they have basically a radioactive battery. Like it's like I'm gonna call it an engine in generous terms. So basically there's just a radioactive brick in there, and it takes the power that's generated for when one of these atoms decays in the radioactive substance, and it uses that tiny bit of power to keep itself going. But what I didn't consider was what that power was actually doing, because it's actually quite difficult to accelerate anything in the vacuum of space. When we, walk somewhere or push something, or a good example to think about is swimming. When you swim, you're kind of like, you're flailing around, but what you're doing is you're pushing against the water. You're pushing the water the other way so that you go upwards. In the vacuum of space, there isn't anything to do, and any mechanical method to accelerate a craft is a net zero. Like you can move something, but it can't get any more forward momentum because it's not pushing against anything. It can't push against the vacuum. The only way to accelerate a craft in space is to shoot mass out in some direction or another. So like the way spacecrafts maneuver is you see them like they shoot out little bits of gas, and it's like the main reason that's even working is that it's shooting gas out into space. That mass is going away and it's getting pushed in that direction. So without mass, you can't accelerate a spaceship no matter how much power you're generating inside. Unless, of course, you have mystical space powers. So you can just use this force choke and use our ability to exert the small force over a long distance. It's kind of net into a force pull, like a force push, rather than a straight up choke, because a choke would be kind of pulling it all towards the same thing. And then I was thinking a bit about that, and I was like, well, what you could do is you could position your force choke so it's at the front, so only half of it's pulling. And I was thinking a lot of different ways about the mechanics of it and realized, look, you can just push with it.
Yes, Jedi can push.
You can just use the same amount of force and push with it. There could be maybe a little bit of figuring, but it's not particularly interesting, and it would eventually work out. So let's build our space probe. All it needs is basically a transmitter and a camera. It doesn't need any bits to keep it like powered or, anything like that. So we can kind of cut down on the weight of the probe. The space probe that we sent the furthest, the Voyager 1, weighs 735 kilograms, and it's got all the stuff that we non-magical people need to do to get it moving. So I'm going to say that we can cut way back down to like 100 kilograms. Seems a reasonable size for me for our space probe. So if you have a 100 kilogram space probe, the key question is, how far and how fast can we get our space probe going? And the answer is pretty crazy far and fast. The 75 pounds of force that you can exert with your hand is actually like quite a lot when there's no friction or anything to reduce that force's effects. For a 100 kilogram probe, that's an acceleration of 3.3 meters per second squared. And what that means, if you actually imagine it, what's the numbers that you can actually use, after a single minute of continuously pushing and accelerating with 75 pounds of force, our space probe is going 440 miles an hour. And I've checked this math like 4 times because I was pretty dang sure I missed a unit. And no, the answer is that space is really weird. And I checked it 4 times, I'm going through like trying to get comparison points. So like if you look at a car, the starting force for a car is actually somewhere between like 50 and 200 pounds of force. So that's not a lot. We can actually exert that. So the force we can apply by squeezing our hand is actually what the force our car starts off at. But once our car starts moving and encounters friction and air resistance and, its internal friction and all that nonsense, it needs thousands and thousands of pounds. It needs all that horsepower. But when you're in space, there's nothing slowing you down. There's nothing that's taking away from the 75 pounds of force, and it continues to be this constant acceleration. Like, just imagine pushing, like, the lightest thing you can imagine, like, the lightest balloon, like, with your full force and how fast that will get going. And basically, you are accelerating as fast as cars accelerate. And it's pretty crazy. So just to kind of put some numbers on this and put some space into perspective, because it's what I love to do. Basically, after about a week, we're passing by Jupiter already. Mars is like a couple days. Jupiter, we're passing after a week, going 4 million miles an hour. After about... So you say you did this on a longer time frame. I'll get to my I have a caveat in here, but I'm going to skip that for a moment to get to some of the bigger numbers because they're more fun. So about 50 years in, say you did this for 50 years, you are finally getting some good distance. You've traveled 4.14 times 10 to the 15th, aka 4 quintillion kilometers.
That's your threshold for good distance?
That's a good distance. Quintillion.
Before that is bad distance.
When I have to convert from scientific notation back into like comma notation and then count how many things it is and be like million, billion, quadrillion, and double check it, that's how you know you're in big numbers. But crazily, this is only 1/100th of the way out of our galaxy. We're way past the solar system, but as far as like our individual galaxy, if we're trying to explore like the vast expanse of space, we are 50 years in, not even 1/100th of the way out of there. And that's continuous. Like you doing this all day, every day. Ooh, excuse me. All day, every day. But luckily, force powers, they're hereditary. You know, it doesn't have to be just you. You're going to be this, you know, super pioneer of space, time, and travel, and your kids are going to be super proud of you. And some of those kids are going to have force powers too, and you're going to teach them how to get mad and choke things. And then you're going to show them the space probe. And if you did this generation to generation to generation to generation, and you did this for 600 years, you would finally make it out of our galaxy, which would actually also put you exactly out of the range of how far Darth Vader could force choke somebody from. So I'm not sure if it stops working out of that after that. And I stopped doing math at 1,000 years. But if you did it for 1,000 years, you would be out of our galaxy for 400 years, continuously accelerating even after that point. And you would be 1/10 of the way to the next one.
Nice.
So space is really, really big. One caveat on all these numbers here, though, just for you, those who want to know what I worry about after I finish these things, is we definitely do exceed the speed of light after about a year and a half. Where is it? Yeah, between 2 and 5 years is when we actually hit the speed of light with our space probe. And at the 10% of the speed of light is when you actually have to start calculating in relativistic effects, because you're moving so fast from our perspective that things are changing as you approach the speed of light. Of course, a whole bunch of other physics kick in to slow you down that is not friction related. I did not consider those. I have a note that just says I didn't do that.
We have a whole episode on that. What if the speed of light was 30 miles per hour, right?
Yeah, and it was really, really one of our most complicated episodes, and I really, really didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
So, if anyone would like to work on correcting my math at home and let us know, basically, baseline acceleration, 3.33 meters per second squared. When do you run into relativistic problems? How far do you get? When does you just turn into a weird space bubble black hole and explode? When does that happen? Let us know. And that might be our most complicated call to action ever, so we should probably skip over to the bit where we do our would you rather question first, but then more of the call to actions. Chris, are you ready for a would you rather question?
I am ready.
Would you rather steal a cop car or a fire truck?
My first thought is that it's easier to immediately get away with the fire truck, I guess, because the cops aren't around and they'd have to call people first. But it is slower.
But it's also way more fun.
It is way more fun.
Yeah, this is what we're supposed to use to get away with this. Would you rather?
It's also way harder to drive.
That's part of why it's fun. Like a cop car is just a car with a wee woo and a light on top, right? Like, you know, like I've driven cars before. I have never driven a fire truck personally.
That is true. I mean, you're going to get caught no matter what.
You are almost certainly, because you're going to put the wee woo on. Like you're not going to be able to resist it.
Yeah, you might last a little longer with the cop car, but you're right. I think the fire truck is way more fun.
It's so much more fun.
I am encountering. I'm on Team Fire Truck is fun right now, but I am encountering a fire apparatus over 26,000 pounds, aka fire trucks, are limited by NFPA standards to a maximum of 68 miles per hour.
Really? Wait, really? Huh. I'm trying. I guess I've never actually seen like a fire truck on the highway.
If the fire truck has to go on the highway to get to your house, it's unlikely it's going to be helpful.
I was thinking more for like if there was like a car that had, caught on fire or something. I've never seen one like moving on the highway. But it's very funny the idea that like there'd be a car stuck on the highway on fire or something, and a fire truck just like going just over the limit to get there.
Okay, so I'm trying to imagine. So, can you get away with a fire truck? Because if you can get away with a fire truck, this is an easy
I
question.
think it's almost impossible to get away with the fire truck.
I don't think you can get away with either of these.
I think it's more likely you get away with the cop car.
I mean, can't we assume that both have some kind of like tracking transponder on them?
Yeah, but you don't have to stay with the cop car. You could drive it for a little bit and then
and then bail.
ditch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess technically, yeah. I mean, cop cars do have a. Is the camera in a cop car always recording? I'd assume so. Yeah.
Probably. But it's only the dashboard, right? It's only the front.
Is it only the front?
I mean, maybe it's not. I don't know.
It's probably only the. I mean, I feel like anytime I see like dash cam footage from a cop car, is the dash. So it could be just the front.
I just don't want to steal the cop car. It's just my gut does not want to steal the cop car. Period. It's just not boring. It would be incredibly exciting and stressful to do in a bad way. Don't steal cop cars.
Don't steal any cars. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and blanket statement. Don't steal cars. Just full stop.
Don't steal.
Don't steal.
Yeah. Don't steal. We can just stop at steal. Don't steal. Because what I'm imagining now too is like you've stolen your fire truck and you're on the highway, and the cops are trying to pull you over. But how do you pull over a fire truck? You can't run it off the road.
It does seem pretty difficult.
I mean, if you get stuck in traffic, though, you're kind of stuck.
Less stuck though than if you had a cop car.
Yes. Yeah. You can get through light traffic in a fire truck.
Well, I feel like in a cop car, you might be able to like weave, or you'd be able to fit through tight spaces easier.
I will also say, you're in a fire truck with the lights on. People are going to get out of your way.
Oh, yeah, people are going to move out of the way. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like...
Either way.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I have to just go with the side of fun here and get on that fire truck train. It's not a train, it's a truck. I just said truck. Anyway, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I have a mental image that I got like a couple cohorts. Maybe you guys are helping me steal it. And like there's a cop car like coming up alongside, and then you just like pull out the fire hose and just like blast them.
If you're with buddies, it is 100% the fire truck. No, without a doubt. Because, you got someone in the basket, you got someone on the hose. It's great. It's a great time. In a police car, if you have buddies, you're just kind of like hanging out in a car.
And you're divided by like a cage in the middle.
You have a cage.
Also, like, how awesome is your getaway where you just like pull up to like a 10-story building and throw the ladder up, and then you just like run up the ladder and escape, like, continue escaping that way?
It's great. It's perfect.
Mean,
it's like a Jackie Chan movie.
It's not that good of an escape. You're just
it's
up
not.
high now.
It's really, you're just up high. They know you're in there. You put a fire truck in front of the
until you
building.
get to your zip line.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the main problem with the zipline, Marcus, is that it's pretty clear where it starts and where it ends. It's kind of hard to mysteriously slip away with the zipline.
But then your next platform has 3 zip lines leading from it, and each of those zip lines has 3 zip lines leading from it.
I see. Marcus, how high up are you when you start this?
How high can a ladder
How high
go?
are the ladder trucks? How high are the ladders?
Touché.
100 feet. I'm 100 feet up.
I don't know if you can support quadratic zip lines, but anyway.
Honestly, if you're in a cop car, they're going to try to probably to pit you, which means you might not last as long in a cop car. They can't really pit you in a fire truck, so you might last longer in a fire truck.
You cannot. There's too many wheels on a fire truck. You can't get pitted.
You're going to get a longer joyride.
You are. And a longer vehicle. Anyway. Personally, I think I know what my decision is.
I think we're all in agreement. It sounds like.
Are we?
I can't
are we
think
all
of
team.
Yeah,
Fanny?
my brain is like, I always try to give these the benefit of the doubt and argue both sides, but man, my brain is just telling me don't even bother. It's gonna be the fire truck.
Yeah.
Fire truck.
No way around it. Get that fire truck.
If you are #Team Fire Truck, then you are in the right place. And by the right place, I mean this podcast. And if you want to be even more in the right place, aka have even more of this podcast, you can do that by going to www.patreon.com/absurdhypotheticals and becoming a patron, one of our good hypotheticals. For just $1 a month, you get access to all our bonus content that we release each month on the Patreon. There's lots of cool stuff there. Your support means the world to us. We always thank everybody with a super excellent. We each do an entire metaphor for you at the end of those Patreon episodes. Thank you for what you're doing. And since none of us are poets, they are hot disasters, which makes them retroactively good metaphors because they're entertaining. And then if you want to support the show, but you don't want to give us your hard-earned money, there are other ways you can help too. One, become part of the show. Send us a question. If you are on YouTube, the easiest way is to do it just in the comments below. If you're on any other devices, best way to get in touch with us is just send us a quick email. absurdhypotheticals@gmail.com is the best one. Shoot us a question. We'd love to get more listener questions that we can make part of the show, and you may be immortalized forever by us doing a whole bunch of research on the question that is burning in your brain.
And we might say your name if you want us to say your name.
Yeah, and you'll get. We are absolutely will credit anyone who does that if they are willing. And then last one here, if you like the show and you want people to know and you want to help it grow, leave us a review. Tell your friends and family. Word of mouth reviews both are really important aspects to helping the show grow. And the more people to listen, the longer the show will last. The more we will do it. The more everyone benefits. It's net positive for both of us. But we can't leave our own reviews because that would be weird, and we don't like that. So you guys have to do it. And that's it. That's all the things. That's all the things I'm asking for. You can join us next week where we answer the following question. It's actually going to be a few questions because we are doing another grab bag, and all the questions in this grab bag are going to be about Tom Cruise.